pawns, man. And
we're back. Part 3, the finale miniseries.
Just get like the little HBO opening thing.
Basically. We will have a new intro and outro for season 2 of the show. S.H.I.E.L.D., Mad Men, Sopranos, cigarettes, gangs, and mafia, and police work.
Yeah.
I know absolutely nothing about the S.H.I.E.L.D. I know 2 things about each of the other shows. So I'm going to be lost going through that. I can't wait. But we are here to wrap it up. Chernobyl. Happy-go-lucky final episode that we're going to talk about tonight. Band of Brothers, as Mark said before we went live. Hey, the Allies won. I don't know if anybody can be sad. And I said at the beginning of this 3-part series, I did not pick Oz. Oh, I picked Oz. I picked Oz real bad. I don't think I don't think it's as bad as Oz. It's just great premise, did not live up to expectations or cross the finish line how it should have. Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. I had a good time with Band of Brothers and Chernobyl, and
of course you did.
Then you
watch them every Christmas.
Yeah, it's maybe I may still be on the fence of whether or not 11/22/63 will be an every year watch. Probably won't be. Most likely won't be.
Not enough room.
No.
Wire. Chernobyl. By the time this comes out, you'll be surprised. This man, it makes perfect obvious why this man never won a movie trivia belt, because he rewatches mini shows and TV shows every year.
Need to bring back the TV trivia
and doesn't check up his strengths. Man, if we brought down trivia, that man, I want to see him in a Wire trivia. I think. Next up, Matt, how are you? No movie tonight.
No movie tonight.
Well known fact when we record. We never really get to ask Matt too much about his movie, but he sees a movie normally before this. No movie today. Already saw Terrifier 3?
Yeah, I saw that actually over the weekend. So.
You're a disgusting creature.
It wasn't as good as the second one, which was too long already. So
Lovely. I didn't know how many times you could go to the same well that many times and see what you did. All right. So we made an executive decision is we're going to end with 11/22/63. Not because it's the best show, but it's going to probably create the most discussion.
Or is it the best show? We don't know. We'll see when we get there.
Listen, I've fought with you guys on Breaking Bad at times. And The Wire. I promise you, if you guys say this miniseries is better than either of your 2 shows, the show's canceled. We won't be back in season 2. I'll see you later. I can't be with lunatics. But we're going to start with Band of Brothers. It's 3 episodes. Then Chernobyl's going to be 1. And then we'll close with the final 3 episodes of 11/22/63. Then we'll rank the miniseries. Excuse me. We'll rank the miniseries. And then we will be off for the break. Which, again, you guys will never see a break. We will get to feel the break. That's the only difference.
Next week you guys get to watch all the cool shows. We have to wait.
Mark will watch. Probably he'll restart The Wire for some.
He's got enough time.
Yeah, he's got time. So, perfect. All right. Band of Brothers.
So
War. What is it good for? Tell me.
All right, so we're going to start off with episode 8, The Last Patrol. We've made it all the way up to February 9th, 1945, and our Easy Company is in France. David Webster returns to Easy Company from the hospital. We saw him in some earlier episodes, and then he kind of disappeared as he was wounded. He's having a hard time catching up with all the changes, and the other men aren't really making it any easier on him. We also have another new person, Lieutenant Jones, fresh out of West Point, shows up. I don't want to say that it's a little nepotism, but it might be a little nepotism, but it's a young little Hanks. We'll see what he does. Easy Company is tasked with raiding across the river to capture prisoners for interrogation. Lieutenant Jones volunteers for the mission, but is denied. Jones and Webster are told to report to the 2nd Platoon. In the little town that they're all holed up in, artillery occasionally rains down upon them. One of the men is killed in such an attack. The men get to shower, so celebrations are in order. Lipton informs Malarkey that he will be leading the mission, but Webster suggests that Jones take Malarkey's place. Winters and Spears initially deny Jones' request, but they relent and let him go. So we fast forward to the mission, the night of the mission. A few of the men fall in the river while crossing it and have to turn back. One of the men walks into his own grenade blast. They capture 3 prisoners and blow up one of the buildings. They did have to leave one of the wounded prisoners behind. Jackson, the young man who kind of blew his face off with the grenade, died of his wounds after they returned.
No. This is the 40s. I didn't think he was recovering from a grenade blast.
The medic tried, but hey. Colonel Sink requests another patrol since everyone was so proud with how successful that patrol was, and they got a little bit of information out of the prisoners. But Winter tells his men that they need to have a good night's sleep, so they aren't actually going. And in the morning, they will report to him that they were unable to get any live prisoners. That's kind of this is a big deal for Winters, because this is kind of Winters being dishonest and stuff. But like they've all come to the realization that they're almost through, and he doesn't want to risk any of his men for something like this when they're almost all out of there. Winters gets a promotion to major, and the men are taken off the line, and they are heading to Germany at the end of our episode.
Wow. No, just kidding. No, I still love. I still, again, I would lose all the money if I had to answer who these names are. As I call them, Soldier 1, Soldier 2, and then what's something significant I've learned about them in the time frame. Yeah, that grenade blast was fucking crazy. I didn't like. Yeah, like, again, that's very rude of me to say. He passed away, but I thought it was very rude that they took the time to even, like, try. Like, I don't know. You created this weapon. Like,
I mean, it wasn't that bad. It's not like Breaking Bad where you could, like, see his skull or anything.
True. But, I mean, in the 40s, I think this is, like, the time when people, like, get something chopped off and just bleed to death on the thing. So I don't know.
This is when they're just putting powder on the wounds and wrapping it up in a bandage.
Yeah, but overall, great episode. Overall, like, I was building towards the end. I really enjoyed it. You feel like connected with this group, and they did a really good job of setting that with the writing and stuff. That you feel like they're. Like, you're not I'm not a member of the military, never will be, never have been offered, never even tried. But, like, how they create that companion amongst them, I think is really strong in these things. Kind of like a band of brothers. I don't know if you guys know that's maybe what the title is referring to, but they make a good job of making you feel like it's a band of brothers. So, I like that. Mark hated this episode.
Funny story. When I first watched this, the way I first watched it, I rented these DVDs from Blockbuster, and I initially thought episode 8 was the final episode of the show because I didn't see a 5th DVD in the Blockbuster area. So I was like, "Oh, that's a good ending." And then I told my brother that, and he's like, "No, there's 2 more." It made me happy. Like 2 months later, I thought I'd finished Band of Brothers a long time ago. Yeah, this one. I think this episode has kind of. I've warmed up to it a bit. I used to not be a huge fan. I honestly used to not be a huge fan of this 3-episode run. I've kind of warmed up to it a lot since then. I think. I just really like this Webster story. I kind of love that this is a guy who we saw at the very beginning. He comes back, Mrs. Bastone, and he has to get the rest of this company to like him again. even though they know who he is and they know everything about him, but they're like, "Oh, you missed Bastogne. You're kind of a piece of shit to us now." Like
why didn't you break out of the hospital like this guy and this guy and this guy and get back to us?
Yeah, like it kind of nuts. Once again, my favorite character in this, Cobb, shows up, who is just an absolute asshole the whole time. Jabbing Webster about his showers and getting drunk and yelling at the sergeant. Oh, and also flipping over his boat so he couldn't actually go on the patrol. Yeah, what a dick. I did find funny though, you talking about Jackson, that in this patrol there were two people in this who had never actually been into combat before, and the guy that gets his face blown off accidentally is a guy who was in combat. So coincidence there, I guess. But no, very no, it was a very good episode. I still like this one quite a bit. The Webster stuff I think is very good.
Okay. All right, so we will go to episode 9, Why We Fight. Spring 1945, the men are in Germany. The men are either trying to get it on with Germans, successfully in Tom Hardy's case, or getting themselves some contraband from looting the various homes and stuff. We get to spend some time with Nixon. He went on a jump that we didn't get to see, but it didn't go so well. We also find out he has run out of booze, so he is not doing too well in that regard. Then it gets even better. He gets a letter that his wife is divorcing him and taking his dog. So not a great run of stuff for Nixon here. The U.S. troops are chasing the remaining Nazis into the mountains. Along the way, they pass the defeated German soldiers marching in the other direction. Some of the men come across something while they're out on patrol, and Frank is sent back to get some commanding officers. He brings everyone back with him, and what they come across is a concentration camp. So the Nazis abandon the camp with the prisoners locked up and slowly dying. The men at Easy Company release them, and they begin providing care for them. They talk with one of the prisoners, who tells them that they are just ordinary people, but unwanted by the Nazis, Jewish, Polish, gypsies. He also tells them that there's a women's camp nearby. A doctor, the army medic doctor, comes by and tells Winters and Nixon that they need to lock all the prisoners back up so they can supervise their care. That way they won't try to scatter and end up eating too fast and killing themselves. The survivors don't take this news very well, but they're really in no condition to resist at that point, but it does take a toll on the soldiers. Winters hears from the division that there are even worse camps that the other Union units have been discovering all throughout Germany. General Taylor declares martial law and orders all the able-bodied Germans from the nearby town to start burying the bodies. Then we find Easy Company is going to be heading out the next day. Easy Company receives news that Hitler has killed himself. And then kind of at the end there, we have a little text between 1942 and 1945, 5 million ethnic minorities and 6 million Jews were murdered in camps just like this one all throughout Germany. So yeah, this is probably one of the more harrowing episodes of television that you will see. What do you guys think?
Like I said originally, I had previously thought the previous episode was the last episode of the show. So I guess initially I thought, wow, this show just kind of stiff-armed the whole concentration camp stuff in here. And then we get into this 9th episode. Like, oh shit! Like here we are. Like, yeah, it is definitely like just kind of crazy stuff. And even though like I like that, even though we are only seeing the aftermath of this, it is still very sad and very emotional. I think the show does a very good job of I think pulling out every little bit of that, where once the camp is found, where we have just the interactions between the soldiers and the townspeople, like that interaction between Webster and that chef who they're taking all the food, where he definitely doesn't believe that he didn't know, even though there is a bit of plausible deniability on his part, just because like he wasn't a soldier. The was the that oh yeah, that moment where Liebgott has to tell all those Jewish people in German that, hey, we got to put you back in the camp, like is horrible. It is horrible to watch. It really just makes you feel sick to your stomach when that happens. And then going into the Nixon stuff, I thought the Nixon stuff was very neat, especially I think we're kind of telling the story through Nixon, who is kind of in the middle of kind of losing everything. He's kind of losing his shit, and they're going through kind of one of the worst parts. Like even though the Easy Company's been through a lot of bad shit, this is arguably like the worst thing they've seen their time in Germany, and it leads into probably the best moment of this episode, where because earlier we see Nixon breaking into people's houses trying to steal alcohol, and he breaks into that SS officer's house, and the wife just kind of gives him this look. And we had that moment of like, well, maybe everybody in this town had plausible deniability of not knowing, although there's no fucking way she didn't know. Her husband was in the fucking jury. Her husband was an officer in the SS, and she kind of gives him that look at the end where she's helping clean up the camp, and like, yeah, I might know about this thing. Yeah, very good episode. Very good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Nixon part of this episode. Just what the shit he's like going through. I think they did a really good job selling that. Going back in the camp thing was like, I figure we would touch on it at some point through the show of being in World War II, and like how terrible that was in Germany and stuff. But just to see that played out on this was really hard. You didn't like this 3-episode run when you first watched it?
I mean, I was kind of young, and like most of the action stuff was kind of done. So I was like, well, we're just kind of going through this kind of
so you're just a dumb kid.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because I was like, this is the stuff that I was like more than tuned to it.
Yeah, I was like 12 when I first watched it.
Where are your parents? No, I thought it was a really strong episode overall. Like hard at parts, but like I think that overall the payoff was really well done.
All right.
Wrap it up, Matt.
So we are going to go into episode 10, Points. We start out July 1945 in Austria. Winters and Nixon are kind of having a little quiet moment, kind of talking about their plans for when the war is over. Winters is kind of deciding if he wants to stay in. Pretty much the higher-ups have said that they see good things, a good future for him in the military. Nixon offers him a job at his home. I guess Nixon comes from a little bit of wealth. I guess his family's got some business, so Winters has got a job with him if he wants it. And then Winters goes for a nice swim. There was a nice moment, too. I guess they got a hold of some pictures from the beginning of their time over in a training camp. And you just see, like, the two guys look like way different than they do now. They've been through a lot. It's almost like when you see a president at the end of their term and they've aged like almost 10 years. We cut back to Easy Company entering the Alps. The Nazis have blocked up the roads, but it's decided the Easy Company will get to climb the mountain and take the Eagle's Nest, which was kind of like Hitler's little summer home, I guess you could say. The German army has surrendered at this point. It's pretty much just going through. A lot of the guys are kind of once again getting some contraband to send home. Nixon, Winters takes him to a house of one of the high command of the Nazis and Guy has a giant basement full of all the booze and wine that you could ever want. You just see Nixon's eyes get big when he goes in the room there. And then, so after VE Day, victory in Europe, the men are sent to Austria. And pretty much the men are told that they are likely going to be going to war in Japan now. So they need to begin training for that. The men need 85 points in order to be discharged and go home, which a lot of the men do not have those points. So the men are kind of not coping well with all the free time and no enemies to fight. A lot of alcohol is not helping the situation either. A couple of the men died in a couple of accidents, and one of the men just flat out went crazy and killed a couple of people. They end up having to capture him and kind of beat him up before they turn him over to the military police. Nice moment. We see Sobel is still running around doing his thing, and he tries to get away with not saluting Winters, which Winters tells him, "We salute the rank, not the man." It's a great little moment. Then we kind of find out that Japan has surrendered, and the men get to go home. So kind of, I guess, Oppenheimer kind of happens somewhere in here. So then we there's a nice little baseball game at the end, and it kind of goes through and talks about what all the men did after the war. A lot of them pretty much just went on to live normal lives, work regular jobs, and things like that. And then finally, we get to see the real life men again, and this time we get to kind of put the names to the faces to see some of the men that survived and are still around to kind of tell the story. And there's a nice little Winters has a nice little quote at the end where he put in a letter about his grandson, kind of asked him, "Grandpa, were you a hero in the war?" And he replied, "No, but I served in a company of heroes." And that's kind of Band of Brothers.
I think it's like, I understand at 12 years old how this episode would have sucked. Like, I'd be bored to tears.
Yeah.
I really liked it though. Kind of seeing them at peace, but like not at peace. Like when you're so conditioned to do something for so long, and then you don't have that to do, and then you're forced to like the amount of shit they saw and have to live with, and like now the stuff we know now about PTSD and stuff like that, the amount of stuff they probably struggled with and thing.
And just the fact that they get through all that, and now you're told, okay, now we're going to send you over to Japan. You got to do it all over again.
Yeah, you conquered one. You have to do a thing. It just shows how messy war really is.
Mm-hmm.
They're just numbers, really, for us. Like they're not really people, even. I mean, they are, but like how they're treated by the military and stuff. Like, okay, go. Thank God they dropped the nuke or whatever, so these guys got to go home. But like, that's still crazy. Still one of the most fucked up thing in U.S. history that they dropped a. They bombed our thing. We just lit up two cities like nothing. But that's besides the point. That's a history lesson for another day. I wanted to say something. I know it's off topic to what this episode was, but like Nazaria brought it up, so I've never watched the Pacific. That's the sister episode thing of this.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much about the Pacific Front. I also have not seen it myself. I heard.
Mark, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's maybe something we can visit at some point. But yeah, I was just curious of how like I don't hear that and even near the same breath.
Yeah.
And
they also just had one come out this year, the Masters of the Air, which is pretty much a lot of the same group, the creative team behind it, and it's pretty much about the airplanes and stuff aspect of the war. So.
That's interesting. No, but it's great send off, and I think it's just so smart from this end to get these guys while they're still alive to capture their stories and hear their tell. Also, Dick Winters is like top 10 name of all time. Like should have been a pitcher like for the intern. Dick Winters, like yeah, let's fucking go. Come on, Dick. Yeah, I think it's great. But overall, great episode. 12-year-old Mark would have understood to hate this, but 30-year-old Cody enjoyed. 33.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure when I turned the page. I don't think it was that much longer. I think I was still in high school at some point.
On your seventh watch.
Came around to it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this episode is really great. I think what I really like, just kind of, it's them just being smart from just a storytelling and like just kind of a TV perspective. They found a way to put conflict into this episode without them actually being in war. Like me, because it's all about us. Because one, like these people, like they're still dying somehow. Like Easy Company men are still getting killed for kind of dumb reasons, or they're still getting hurt or injured through whatever. I mean, because we had Tom Hardy's character, I don't remember his name, died out there. We don't even see Shifty get in that car accident after he had that raffle to get him out of there, but like he still got it. And then we got like one of their sergeants, not Talbot, Grant getting shot in the freaking head. That was a great sequence, them hunting down that guy, and then freaking Spears almost killing them in front of everybody. Really good scene. And just to think about, just from a historical perspective, is that there were several guys who were part of who had been in the war since, and they had jumped in Normandy, they jumped in Holland, they served in Bastogne, they had been wounded at least once, and they still didn't have enough points to go home. Like, it's just crazy. Like, doesn't make any sense.
That
like,
scoring system has to change. That's crazy.
Like, what was that?
What else?
Send all those guys home. There's no one to go to Japan.
It's like basically like at the beginning of the thing when they're taking away the weekend pass. No one got a weekend pass. Like, it was just like, mother.
But yeah, even though again, I wasn't a big fan of this when I grew up, I still really, really enjoyed the scene where Sobel had to salute winners. Just a great scene. And then, yeah, just great cap. Kind of hearing where they all going. I think probably some of my favorites were Webster, him being lost at sea and then never hearing from him again. And one that always makes me chuckle is a Bull saying he went into the earth moving business. Like, just it makes like a guy who looks like that. Like, that's the profession I would guess, an earth moving business, just a giant dude. And then, yeah, we cap it off with the kind of us figuring out who they had in to say their stuff. Honestly, I think that's probably a thing that is maybe one of the cooler things on rewatch, because now I know who they are. Now, like, oh, this is what this guy said about this episode, and it kind of puts everything else into perspective. But yeah, looking back, it really is a perfect ending to the show.
And if anyone's interested too, I know that Max, I watched this on HBO Max, and it was about to queue up. They have like a little documentary with all the soldiers that were still alive, pretty much just all the old guys telling the different stories and stuff. It was like an hour long. So I'll probably check that out sometime this weekend now. Give me something to watch.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Depressionville.
I mean, I guess you'll watch that, I think, because I guess you don't want to watch Smile 2 or already saw it, or like, I don't know.
Should pass on that, I'm just going to say.
Going to my only episode. I didn't have to do much here today. The finale, finale of Chernobyl. Its name is Vichnaya Pamyat. I didn't do the translation on that. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming maybe it's like we fucked up. I'm not
fun times.
Yeah. Anyway, start out in this episode. We go a little bit back in time because we were in Chernobyl the afternoon before the disaster. Everybody's kind of living their life. They're out with their kids or their husbands or wives, and like they're just kind of doing their thing. And then we see Dyatlov walk into a meeting. He's going in with the other two bosses, Prokharnov and Fomin, and they want to talk about running a safety test. They've been trying to get it done for 2 years, but they can't really lower the power because everybody says they need the power running because the end of the month and whatnot. But Dyatlov says, you know what, I can do it anyway. It doesn't matter. We'll wait till the night and we'll get it done. Like, okay. So with that, we go back into modern time. The KGB is checking in with Lugasov after he spoke in Vienna. He he's talking to KGB. He's like, hey, I told my lies to the people, like, hey, now can we, work on making these reactors safe? And they were like, well, we'll talk about it after the trial. We want our truth first. So definitely not leaving it a great note there. He's also starting to notice the effects of his time in Chernobyl. He's starting to lose a little bit of hair. So like he's definitely starting seeing some start to the deterioration of his health. Komyuka comes and talks to him in his apartment. She urges him to tell the truth in the trial because she knows that the government's not going to willingly change the reactors. They got to force their hand. They got to get their word out and kind of let the scientific community know that we still have a huge problem on our hands. Gossip lets that sink in. We go into the trial. Boris and Komyuk testify and kind of give some context to what happened the day of the disaster. Boris kind of talks about what the nuclear reactor does, and Komyuk just kind of goes in and says, "Listen, they had to wait 10 hours, and because of that, the people who initially did the test weren't there. It was then handed off to a group who had never done it before, and especially like a less qualified group had to go in and do it, and led by Dyatlov, who kind of just wanted to perform this to kind of raise his status a bit. And then after that brings they started bringing down the power to kind of go into the safety test. The were run the test never done before. Lost my spot. They're lowering the power down slowly to kind of start the safety test, and when they do it just drops dramatically, brought on by the xenon poisoning. And Legasov's going on there kind of explaining what's going on like in the trial, and we've gotten to the point where the power is too low and Dyatlov wants him to raise the power. And even though they think they should shut down because they can't really raise the power from too low because it's too dangerous. We get into that point where they are starting to do that, but Boris starts kind of having a coughing fit, so they take a break. There's a moment between Boris and Legasov where they're talking about kind of their time in Chernobyl. Boris kind of thinking he's an inconsequential man, although Legasov does reassure him that, you're kind of the reason that we got this done. Even though Boris does have that line in there, is like, yeah, I didn't think it was that much of a problem because they sent me. Like, if it was a real problem, they probably would have sent somebody else. We go back into the trial, and Legasov's kind of telling their story, kind of what happened. Where basically the guys running in the control room to start raising the power back up. They started pulling control rods out entirely, and there was like 211 control rods in there. They pulled out 205 of them, so there were only 6 control rods left in there. So there was basically nothing to kind of stop the power from raising whenever they were going to do stuff. But even with doing that, the power is still not super high. It's at like 300 kilowatts or whatever the measurement is. And Dyatlov wants to run the test anyways. So basically, Dyatlov has ran into like 4 or 5 warning signs, problem signs in the day in question. He doesn't really give a shit. He's kind of doing it anyway, and he's doing this while berating kind of everybody in the room and also threatening everybody professionally if he kind of doesn't get his way, because all he does is want to do a complete test. They then begin the test, and the moment they do, the power begins to rise rapidly. We're seeing a massive power surge, as Legasov's kind of saying in there. And Legasov is kind of going back into the trial part of the story. Legasov is at the point where he's about to talk about the AZ5 button, and he stops it. But at the moment he's about to talk about it, the court wants to adjourn. And before the court can adjourn, Boris gets up and just kind of urges the court. It's like, no, let him finish. Just let him finish talking. So Boris stands up for Legasov at that moment. And then Legasov then spills the beans on what happened with there, where yes, they definitely they definitely did a bunch of things they shouldn't have done, a lot of unsafe ways, but they didn't know that this button could have acted as a detonator and kind of somewhat lets these guys off the hook a little bit, and like where the government is at least somewhat in fault here, where we didn't know that before, which goes in to say once they push that button, the reactor really shoots up power, and then the plan was supposed to only work under like 3,200 kilowatts or whatever. It went up to like 30,000 or whatever. And that moment, the lid reactor blows off, and then the core explodes. A sequence that I honestly watch a lot. I cannot get enough of that sequence. After that, as he's going in, that Legasov admits that he lied in Vienna, that what he was saying wasn't true. The rest of the Soviet reactors would potentially have the same disaster, and he kind of just throws all that out there in the trial. And then after he's escorted out and he's interrogated by the KGB, and he also lets Kumyuk and Sherbina off the hook, saying they had nothing to do with it. But Legasov is told that oh, look at that. Should I wait or should I keep going?
We can probably keep going.
Okay.
I think I froze. I don't know if I did or not, but I'm here.
He froze simple. Well,
okay, bye.
No big.
He pressed the A, Z button, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Legasov kind of lets Boris and Kumyuk off the hook. He's told that he's going to be buried along with his reputation, so like he's not going to really be in anything that matters up to this point. It ends with him being shuffled off in secret, and Boris and Kumyuk kind of looking off in the distance, and would eventually lead into what we saw at the very beginning of the show. And there is a lot of end credits. I will go into a few of them just because this is probably one of the craziest. This show has, I think, some of the craziest like end notes of like any of this documentary biography type shit, because pretty much after Legasov's suicide and the release of his tapes, the flaws in the reactors were eventually acknowledged and changed, but didn't happen until after those things. Boris ended up dying 4 years after he sent to Chernobyl. Maybe I didn't think they would fit in any Russian propaganda in this, but they somehow did, because apparently the three people who were responsible for letting out the bubbler tanks, apparently 2 of them are still alive. Like, I don't believe that at all. There's no way. The 3 responsible for Chernobyl, Fomin, Bukharinov, and Dyatlov, were sentenced to 10 years hard labor. And Fomin was able to return to work at another nuclear power plant somehow.
Fudge that resume.
I worked at a very prominent nuclear power plant.
Anything ever go wrong? No, nothing I can think of. I left right before Chernobyl. Oh.
He was the initial starter of that circuit.
I was at home in bed.
Yeah.
So, anyway, also found out Dyatlov died 8 years after being in Chernobyl. The firefighters' clothing still in the hospital, dangerously radioactive. Mila still had health problems, but she was able to have a child. People that railway bridge, none of them survived, now called the Bridge of Death. Of all those miners, at least 100 of them died before the age of 40. There were 600,000 people who worked in the exclusion zone. There were widespread accounts of sickness and death, but there was no official records kept. 300,000 people were displaced from that zone. They still cannot return to their old homes. The containment field around Chernobyl was finished in 2017. Finally, the rates of cancer increased in the surrounding areas. And finally, the estimated death toll for Chernobyl is estimated between 4,000 to 93,000 deaths. No official record was kept of the whole thing because the official Soviet death toll still remains at 31. So,
yeah, it's just 31, right?
Yeah,
I believe so. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all the people that were in there, and I wonder if they counted the firefighters. Honestly, I feel like they maybe could have not counted the firefighters.
Right, yeah.
They didn't work at the power plant. They're just there.
Again, I'm gonna assume this is pretty accurate historically as much as they can tell me. It's always one thing that I wanted to deep dive into more because I've always heard the name Chernobyl. I know what happened, like I know the events, but I don't know. Never really deep dove into it. Besides that, it's a wasteland basically, contamination because of a nuclear reactor blowing up. So I really enjoyed this 5-part episode, this 5-part thing. Again, I've said it numerous times on these 3 episodes that I'm really glad that they condensed it. They made it very tight, 5 minutes, because like we could have had like a love triangle thrown in there at some point just to fill some time, you know. So I thought overall did a very good job of like thing. I always am a sucker for at the end of a real thing to find out what happens with everybody. Like you can get me hooked back in real quick once I read those texts that come across. Yeah, even if they're made up. Great add to any movie ever. Love it when you tell me things that I don't get to see on screen. But overall, I think it was a great wrap-up episode, as great as it can be. The numbers that and the stuff that they put on the screen is very sad. Overall situation. And it's kind of like in every event. I believe that there was a very bad mismanagement of Chernobyl. Like they fucked up pretty bad. But also, I don't know if they understood what they were truly dealing with at the time of it. Like, they were more worried about publicity than safety, clearly. But I think overall, they did a really good job of, like, painting it. I couldn't imagine trying to be, like, a leader around that time or whatever. Like, what do I... mass hysteria. Where do all these people go? Like, I don't know. Like, it's not so bad. It's like melting people, basically, like killing them instantly. So it's a freaky situation all around. But I am really happy to check this one off. I didn't. It would have probably never. I was going through like the TV and miniseries of like if I created a watch list and I could have just clicked see all. Because I've never really explored TV as much as I should. But no, this is fantastic. Well acted, well put together. And I think I may ask you, is this group a part of this doing anything else? Anything in the works? Like, I'm not putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer. I'm just like they should. Like they should tackle more like historical events. Like I think that they have such a good, but it may be like they may have like a heart for this topic until I get news out. I don't know, but great overall, great end episode. Yeah, but it's only 31, so why make a whole series about 31 people?
I do want to point this out. You brought it up, and I just looked at this guy really quickly. Apparently, the showrunner, Craig Mazin, he apparently was the writer of Scary Movie 3 and 4 and directed Superhero Movie. So
what?
I don't know what to say about that. It makes no sense.
He was just fucking around till Chernobyl. That's great.
But one of the co-executive producers and directors did some Breaking Bad episodes. So
Mark's a big fan of that guy. He's like, yeah, fucking Scary Movie. Let's go. Knew this guy had talent. Crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I agree pretty much everything you guys said. I mean, I feel like probably I like episodes 1, 2, and 3 probably better than 4 and 5 because that's just when you're in the middle of everything and everything's happening and it's all craziness. But I really like this one too. I love the courtroom scenes. I love when he's explaining everything that happened and you see the flash, like Mark said, the part where the whole thing explodes. We got the things jumping up and stuff. I thought that was awesome. But I mean, they thought that this was something that could never happen. So I mean, I could see why they kind of did what they did. Because I mean, they thought, why worry about something you could never even think being possible? But still, that one guy is probably one of the character. I don't even want to say character. I'm sure it's pretty accurate to how he was in real life and at the trial and stuff. But bad guy. I mean,
Bad
definitely
guy.
one of the most hated probably characters I've ever seen in anything. The fact that he's like, oh no, I was in the bathroom when all that was going on. I wasn't there ordering them to do anything. I didn't tell them they would be fired and probably go to jail and stuff.
Also, the director of Chernobyl also was in 3 episodes of Breaking Bad. So that's interesting. And he directed Spaceman.
I haven't watched that one yet. So.
And he's got like 9 things in development. So interesting. Okay. You guys ready to go to 11, 22, 63? Wrap this thing up?
Save the best for last.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. You guys, we're going to stop the JFK assassination. But first, we have a birthday party to attend to, all right? So Jake and Bill, Jake is kind of deserting Bill over this course of time. Him and Sadie, he doesn't know how time works. So he is like trying to play house with this woman, which I granted, very attractive. Don't fault him for it. Not what he's intended to do. The past is fighting him pretty hard throughout this. He's now getting like dizziness from it. Like he's seeing altered, like different worlds. They're crashing in between each other. They're trying to prevent him from stuff. So Jake and Bill are still working on investigating the overall Oswalds, while Bill is trying to diddle Oswald's wife. He currently doesn't understand how time travel works either, which is fair because he's from the 60s. Sadie is got that deep cut on her face, so she's going for surgery in this episode. I like that the principal basically told him he's a god. He thinks he's a Russian spy and blah blah blah, and then he's just buddy back with him. So we forgot about that kind of key storyline, which is fine. She is going in for surgery. They are like waiting in the waiting spot, but the door's locked. He sees the man with the hat walking towards it, kind of like the past interfering. He ends up bringing a fire extinguisher, breaking through to get through. It's basically like a Final Destination. I watched 3 of those movies this week as well, but it's like the nitrous oxide like gets turned up like to just basically no airflow. And they are like, he interrupts and says, stop. She's like, she wasn't getting any oxygen. Oh, shit. So end up getting her face fixed at some point after saving it because the past decided to move on. Didn't continue to do it.
I don't get that. Anyway, if the past killed her, wouldn't that make him more focus on his mission? So the past, bad mistake by the past. Not smart.
not a great idea. He ends up going back to his house, hears goes to listen to the audio, finds out there's a party going upstairs. Well, a party at the Oswald's house. He goes in, Bill's there. He's like, Bill, what are you fucking doing? He's like, I was invited for a drink, blah, blah. They end up getting into a scuffle, breaks a lamp. Lamp shows that it's
bugged.
It's bugged. So he's like, motherfucker. So now it's bugged. So now he clearly knows. He thinks it's the FBI because the FBI has been up his ass and stuff like that. So he's pretty frustrated with the FBI. And he starts with his mother, God rest her soul. She's just trying to see the best in him. Throughout, there's a few eye roll moments that really happen in this overall thing, but it's an overall, it's an okay episode. He ends up. I forgot to say at the very beginning of the episode, Oswald is visiting in Dallas. The building,
the repository
where the shot will be taken from. He walks outside and he meets an FBI agent. The FBI agent goes, "Oh, you're back in Dallas. What are you talking about?" "Well, New Orleans. Where do you like to be? Your FBI." He's like, "Yeah, well, it's all right. I'll keep company with you." So he's overall looking about him. He warns his wife about the whole overall situation with the FBI. They end up having the party. Few things I missed. The secretary lady from school has cancer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She's going away, so that's how you write her off the show, get her out of there, because she doesn't need to have any point. He ends up doing classic Jake things. He ends up making a bet, right? 4-1 odds and puts 800 on the right, and that's what he gets in trouble for, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That, and he made bets at several places, and Bill even made a couple bets without Jake's knowledge, and it was all this one guy was like kind of in charge of all these betting places, so it would all come from him, and he wasn't happy.
Yeah. So, and he warned Bill about making too big of bets and like doing the stuff like don't do that, like you're like gonna draw attention to him. He's at the party. They're back at the party. I think Jake sees Bill and Maria or whatever kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So then he draws attention to it, tells him, like, you can't fucking do that. They get into an altercation. He pulls out a gun. Says, if you ever fucking tell me what to do again, I will kill you. Don't come back to this place. You do not live here anymore. Be gone. So he's basically gone. I kind of jumped all over the place, but whatever. This show lost me real fast. The worst, I think one of the worst things they do, but like back in the time, he ends up taking Bill to a mental hospital and gets him just dropped off. And man, in the 60s, they'll take anybody. You just have to sign and just have at it. Who's the fat guy? He ends up like choking out in the back of the car because he overhears the kill.
Oh, like supposedly the handler of Oswald.
Wallace,
yeah, George something.
Yeah, George Wallace. He ends up choking him out to get information. He's trying to rile up like him to do the kill is basically what it is. And then we have 2 more episodes, but we have to like stall it a little bit because we're, I guess, too far ahead. I don't know. He's already at the building. The shot's coming down, so he gets pistol whipped and beat the fuck out of for making just a large fucking bet and taking the money. Made an example of. He has no memory. He wakes up he's in the hospital, all beaten and torn. She's there to help him, and I don't think he doesn't remember her, right? Or no, he does.
I think he vaguely, yeah.
Vaguely.
She comes back to him.
She's upset with it. Whatever. She's there to help him. Big scar and all. But yeah, love is love. So what's your guys' thoughts on this? The first episode wasn't enough indication to don't make large bets and made a fucking massive fucking bet.
It's almost like Jake doesn't learn from his mistakes. And I mean, the way he treated Bill and stuff, just pretty much leaving him there on his own, like, yeah, you handle the mission. You got this. I'm going to go play house over there and be a teacher and stuff. It's like, he pretty much brought all this stuff upon himself.
I mean, he's a fucking shitty person. Like, Bill's about to get into his car after like the 3rd episode and was like, I'll just leave. Fine. He's like, no, come and help me. By the way, I don't have to do any of this shit. You do it all. You stay in this building nonstop. I'm going to go dick down the library teacher. Like, it's just a weird like setup, and then gets mad when he's not connected. You think he's not gonna be because he doesn't he barely knows you anymore because you've just like years have passed since they got together. Like they've been together for 3 years at this point, and he met Sadie right off the jump. So they've been knocking boots for a while at this point. So.
Yes, I think the beginning of this episode is like 6 months later from when they killed her ex-husband and then the last one. But yeah, I mean, I just feel bad. Chris Cooper, I mean, there had to have been another customer in that diner that he could have sent on this mission that probably would have done a better job.
Made this motherfucker stand out? The old dude that got his family killed, like maybe he wouldn't have ran into him. Yeah, I don't know. Dumb.
But yeah, fun stuff.
Mark, you loved this episode. Tell me about it.
I don't love it, but I certainly did. I didn't hate this episode. This episode I didn't hate just because it felt like we were doing a lot of nothing before, and at the very least, like in this episode, things are moving. Like it felt like we're kind of at least going places, and we're bringing in like conflict from interesting place. Like the fact that we have Bill turning on him, and he's like hanging out with Oswald, and like there's that thought, and well maybe he's the second shooter, which is kind of a nuts thing to bring in there in the middle, and he hasn't committed. Like okay, like we're fucking going someplace, like, and it does feel like we're like the Oswald story is actually progressing, and also that too, even though like Jake is kind of shitty at this job, I do kind like at the very least like it's kind of building to some interesting story beats. And then we get to the ending, and I have a very specific issue with where they go forward, but I will save that for the next episode.
Okay. Next episode. I love that they recap all these episodes, like recap everything right before it. So fucking don't watch any of it. Just go to the last episode. You just watch that. I don't know. 17 days until the assassination. 11/5/63. He wakes up. He is stuck in 2016. Like he thinks he's in 2016.
Like
Alex Cooper's there. Chris Cooper's like, you had to invite Bill. You had to do this, but the wrong person. Cough blood on you. And then Sadie shows up, and like he doesn't know if he's in real life or not, but she still has a scar, and like they're getting back to like somewhat of a normal situation, and he doesn't remember shit. So now we have to spend the first part of the episode, JFK, LBJ. Who are these people? I don't know. This is who you talk like fucking just Billy Bum bullshit. Like move the fuck on. The Beatles? What? I felt like, yeah, this is fucking Captain America coming out of the fucking ice, and we have to tell him all over again. Motherfucker, we only have to deal with your ass for 6 episodes at this point. Now you want us to restart this fucking thing? Kiss my ass now. Lee Harvey Oswald stops by the FBI agent, talks to him, throws a little hissy fit, writes a little letter to the person, and drops it off, and breaks that pin thing that shoots beads everywhere. That was the thing. He's not very happy. He is unstable. I do like that they do in this episode, like not to like make it like something. They do like confirm that this show at least, and Stephen King believes that Lee Harvey Oswald was the shooter. So I do want that on the record. There's a lot of thoughts out there. Stephen King, it's Lee. But they're going through all the stuff like to talk about like he's having to take medicine. I don't know what the medicine does.
I think he's got like bad headaches and stuff like that or something.
Yeah, he's a bitch. So he's going to go.
60s medication too. It's not like it's any good.
Yeah, just placebos probably.
Or fucking hard ass. Like so they used to make coke with actual cocaine. Anything's fucking possible back then. They used to give babies whiskey just to help them with fever. So let's be. They go to check out Bill out of the hospital. Bill ain't doing so well. Bill and one got lobotomized, the other got fucking pistol whipped. They both have bad brains at this point. But Bad Brain 1 wants to tell Bad Brain 2 that I know you got electrocuted for this shit, but we're going to get you out and we're going to do it all over again. Bill ain't having it, okay? Bill's not having it. He's like, they're going to electrocute. I said this shit for months. They're going to fucking zap me. No, like, no.
None of that's real.
We're going to take you out. We're going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. Bitch, you put him in there. He remembers you. You may not remember him, but you're dead. So he ends up sitting there. He's like, they end up going to sign him out. Well, classic Tommen from Game of Thrones. Less high, but like he free falls. from the window.
Bill's like, I see where this show's going, and it's I'm getting out.
Yeah, Bill's like, one lady got cancer, gone. This lady, I'm gonna bust my head on the concrete, gone. They call, scream, and he's just laying there, head cracked on the car. I'm not one to tell you what looks. The wounds on the car don't make sense. I just want that on the record. How he's fallen, where he's hit, everywhere. There's like a blood splatter here, a drip down the windshield, shoes up here, and he's laying flat. They could have just moved the car. At this point, it's really bad like placement, but whatever. I just was nitpicking. This show pissed me off. So 8 days. We're now 8 days, 11/14/63. We are fucking booking, all right? He knows who LBJ is. No, he doesn't. He's still there. They buried him. They're moving on. The funeral's on 11/14. Well, guys, we're on 11/15 now. Nothing else happened that day. We're moving on. And I'll tell you the truth. What's even crazier, 11:15 to 11:16, the motherfucker goes and gets a phone call, like drinks a glass of water. Then the very next 11:16, I was like, wait a minute, guys. They're really stuck on this date. We got to get to this date. We don't know what we're going to fill with. So they're still trying to help his memory. Not doing well at all. Just he's sitting there just trying to rest up because they're like, whoa, he can't get to the Dallas too quick. And he can't remember too fast because then he'll know. So let's have the principal and the librarian like talk about him while he's in the room, like sitting on the couch. That was 11:16. Now we're up to 11:17. 5 days from this.
Didn't we have some like dancing lessons somewhere in here too, or something?
I don't remember. Yeah. Well, he's laying on the couch. She comes up and has a thing set for Texas cities. You just want to lay there and just not do anything? Bitch, we've wasted 4 days right now. I don't know what you're doing. Do you want to keep taking these medicine or whatever? Keep doing it or be better. So he's going to be better. That's his commitment. So that's nice of him. We go back to Lee Harvey. Mama Oswald wants to help him out. Make him realize he's a good man. He gets his report card for what, the first grade or something? Second or first grade. I'm not really sure which one it is, but like tells him it's like he's a joy to have in class. Mom, that's a long fucking time ago, all right? And I'm crazy at this point, all right? The FBI has made him crazy. She's like, I want the best for you. That's when that happens. We're on 11/18. We are booking. All right, guys. Lee Harvey Oswald sitting on the newspaper looking at JFK, looks around, throws in the trash can, goes 11/19/63. We're 3 days away from the assassination. Now, Principal and Sadie are dancing. They're figuring out how to dance together, working it out. Just to let you know, Jake still doesn't remember a whole fucking lot. Nothing. It's almost 11:20. We got 11:22. We got fucking 3 days to figure this out, and they're fucking dancing. All right?
Might just have to postpone the assassination. Do it another day.
He's gonna have to. Hey, I'm gonna need you to drive me back to that diner location because I'm gonna have to go back and do it again. Why they're dancing? 11:20. All right, we're on it now. She thinks like maybe it's a good idea if they just go back to his old place. That would have been helpful on the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, the 19th.
Well, he didn't know where his old place was. He like sees something that jogs his memories. Like, I think it's on this
How
street.
Though? Because weren't they together?
I think he heard a song.
She'd never been to that place.
I guess that's true.
He heard a song. It was like Morgan Street. And I think
yeah, fucking bullshit.
It was like that scene in Black Dynamite where they had to figure out get from point A to point B.
But she's never been to the apartment, right?
No.
Right.
But he visited her the entire time, right?
Yeah. What?
Well, they visited in the town where the school was and stuff. But
yeah.
she'd never been to was it Dallas apartment?
Yeah, they're in Dallas.
Under.
Well, and where's she at?
in the small town with the school and stuff.
Jupiter or Jolly or whatever.
Yeah, they had he had two houses. He had the house in the small town with the school, then they had the apartment under.
Fuck off!
Jody. That was the name of that place, Jody.
Jody.
I don't know why we're defending the show, but yeah,
just dumb. Okay, dumb. She walks upstairs. They will go up in the apartment building because they talk to that one lady. Ends up getting him into connection. Runs right into Lee Harvey Oswald. Fucking light bulb goes off, and you can see it on Jake's face. They go in. They go to talking. He is like looking around the apartment, checking everything. He's getting flashbacks, like he is remembering things from the situation. He's grabbed a knife, I think it was. He's going to kill Lee Harvey Oswald right there. Walks around holding a fucking baby. Well, not going to kill him right now.
I mean, she could have caught the baby.
Yeah, they end up going back. She's like talking. They're like, well, I'm going to, what does he say? I'm going to go lay down or something. I have a terrible head. I'm going to go lay down. He tries to escape. She's in the car waiting for him. She's like, I'll take a lot of things, but I am not taking a liar. Like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, we're going to have to do some shit that I'm not happy about. Like, we're going to have to kill Lee Harvey Oswald. The one with the baby? Yeah. All right, if that's what has to be done. She's like fucking on board. She's already pulled the trigger twice, so why not? So she's going to end up, she agrees to kill Lee Harvey Oswald. So that's the plan.
And he's like never given her like any positive proof that he's from the future. She was just like gun ho. And now even when he's crazy memory loss stuff.
It didn't take that long for Belle to be in love with Beast from Beauty and the Beast. She had an abusive husband that was crazy. I think the next man that
you're from the future, but you're not hitting me? Okay.
The next man that winked at me, I think I'm hopping into bed with. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, wait, you don't want to cut my face? That's very nice of you.
Yeah, I'll go kill a guy with you.
I'm trying to think. They go to this. They stop by this lady's house.
Well, it's the apartment that it used to be his apartment, and now there's somebody else living in his apartment.
Right. Oh yeah, they're looking for stuff that.
Yeah.
And we just do a time jump. Not very big, but I don't think we looked at the 21st at all. We're on 11/22/63. We're on the day.
They just snuggled that day.
12 hours until the assassination, everybody. Buckle the fuck up, all right? They're parked there. They tell them they're big fans of Kennedy. They can't park there. They end up driving to another spot, parking, just talking, loving each other. And then all of a sudden, the man in the hat appears in Sadie's spot. Basically tells him, like, going back in the past, like, it's always going to be the same scenario. It's not going to work out. Like, he did it or whatever, and his kid, like, always drowned. Like, it didn't stop it. Like, I thought it'd be different. I thought I could change it. I didn't change it. Like, the past happens for a reason. Like, basically, like, don't do what you're planning on doing. And then it pops back into Sadie. So like she's just chilling. I don't know what they talk about. Whatever happens sticks with me, or whatever stay with me. What?
I think he doesn't want to do it at first anymore, so He tries to talk her out of it, and she's like, "No, we gotta do this," and then so they're there. But there we go.
Yeah, look, we've got to do this. Maybe not. We're 4 hours from the assassination. They almost like sleep through it or whatever. Basically wake up. Wouldn't that be fucking hilarious? Drive up, bullet through the head. Just son of a bitch. And just that it just plays, like, ends the episode. They could have been fucking or something like that. Lee Harvey Oswald, like, wakes up on the day, like, he's sitting there with his wife. He ends up leaving. The past is, like, fighting with them because all their cars, like, won't start. All the things are locked. They're not being able to get through. Man, the 60s were a different time, right? President's coming to town. Police escort, everything. It's 9 a.m. Lee Harvey Oswald's just walking through with a gun. Just chilling. Everybody's like, oh, well, here we go. Oh, he's going to drive right past him. Fuck it. Why not? They're just going to work.
I mean, it was wrapped in paper.
Sure. You don't
I
want
think he
to
has like a flagpole or something.
Yeah. And he walks past, he gets up into the 6th floor and sits down, ready for shots. So that's how the episode ends. Thoughts?
This is. They had to do amnesia
it's such a
for a
lazy
whole
fucking
episode.
show. It's a lazy fucking like.
You know what they could have done instead of doing an amnesia for a whole episode? Doing a whole episode about the dude in the hat and like explain like what the fuck he is and show him going back and trying to save whoever he's trying to save and it's not working over and over. Give a little bit of backstory there.
I don't know how many people are book people, and I understand completely not being book people. Even audiobook. Listen or try to read like 1120. It's actually a fantastic book. The best way I describe this show after rewatching it now is the same way I described Ready Player One. The book of Ready Player One is a fantastic book. The movie of Ready Player One is bad. Like, arguably not a great movie. Sorry, Mike. Don't watch this episode. But, yeah, I think it's great. I think the book overall, they do so much time setting up things and makes it actually matter, where this just doesn't matter. So
do they still do the amnesia stuff in the book?
I don't. I think he gets hurt, but it's not this rushed like what they show in the show.
Okay.
He does get hurt, but it's not like because he makes those mistakes.
Yeah.
But like it makes sense in the book more than it makes sense here, personally.
Yeah.
You said you were going to bring something up you're going to wait for this episode.
Yeah, because I think on the outset, this is not like the worst idea. It makes for bad television for sure. Especially like whenever you're recapping, it's like, all right, 17, 63, takes a drink of water. 11, 18, 63. Like it does seem silly. Like there's that, like I think they try to get the compelling stuff of like, well, she's trying to help him remember, and like we're trying to see what jogs anything, but they're not really working throughout the whole time. It's just kind of like, oh shit, I remember the street I live on, and then like we're going back on the mystery. So like it seems kind of stilted in that regard. I think the thing that really bothers me is I could not shake that, this probably should be where the story actually started. Just because I feel like this is because going back, I kind of had like a little bit of a problem with how the show started, because it just feels like we're just kind of like, well, Jake's a teacher, and then there's a time loop, and like we're going into some crazy shit. Like, and I think, what if the show had started with like him waking up in the hospital and like not remembering anything, and the only thing he can remember is this date, like 11/22/63, and then he slowly realizes that, I've been trying to stop this thing from happening. I don't know what it is. It's like, it turns out, I'm trying to stop JFK. It's like, I'm actually from the future. I know this is going to happen. I have these files. I had these guys helping me. Like, I can't find this guy. Oh, he's in a mental hospital. I got to get this guy to help me do this. And I think like you kind of build off of that while also having a mystery, because I think that's ultimately a big problem with this show, is that this is kind of billed as a bit of a mystery show, but we already know 80% of what happened. Like there's kind of no real reveal here, kind of until the end of the show, because that's not even a reveal. Like his just motivation just kind of changed. We'll get into that in a little bit too, but yeah, I guess like Stephen King is thinking to himself, like, well, I can't have it with a guy trying to stop the Kennedy assassination, because the Kennedy assassination is really well known. Maybe I'd have to make up one, though he has the mystery in there too, because Jake spent the majority of this show figuring out if Oswald was the perpetrator or the CIA was the perpetrator. So you can have that still be your main conflict of him still trying to figure out who is actually the driving force of doing JFK. So I'm just kind of thinking to myself, I don't really know why King chose this way to tell the story when he could have done this. And I'm just, if the show had started here and kind of told the story through it, and him trying to remember what he's doing, I think is way more interesting than what we got as a whole. Where I think this episode in general, I think is fine. It's just it's not like compelling at all. Like, and that's kind of the issue. And it really sticks out when we get to the last episode.
And
No,
I
so
think you're
like,
onto something with that too. Because like if you did like a 2-hour movie version of this, where he just him
no.
waking up in the hospital and 11/22/63 is all that he's thinking of, or maybe even Oswald, and then you follow him as he pieces it all together. That could have worked.
So like so the book overall, that's why I don't believe a movie would ever be able to do this, because like it's just what basically how they tell the story in this is bad overall where it gets to, because it is so rushed where it's so rushed at the point of it, because the mystery is not the mystery. It's the battle through. What they should have done and what they do in the book is how he deals with the past interference with the stuff. It's in the show, it's used as convenience, basically. Like, oh, well, this is about to happen. Need the past to interfere. Like, his battle to get to 63 is the intriguing part. He just has to get to 63 and to stop the assassination. That's almost the point where that's what you got to get to. But the problem is they do such a bad job of rushing it and making it, because there is no mystery. There's zero mystery of this episode, and it shouldn't be a mystery. He has to adapt to life in 1960s, find his way in, get to know Oswald, around Oswald's situation, figure out the life that he has to live, places the bets, figures out his life situation to get to 63. The problem is they use it as just 40-minute blocks that says, oh, this drama happens, and oh, we're going to play house here and we hit here, which you find in these episodes right here. You get this, and they're just like, oh, well, we're doing house and playing song. You can't remember. I agree with you. If like half of the episode was like him waking up and like 2263, 2263, like I don't know what those numbers, but those numbers mean something, and hunting that back down. This one, there is no mystery, but they're trying to make it a mystery by like, here's breadcrumbs. We'll just take you back to your place because now I can automatically remember where I'm at, but I don't AFK. Like, shut up. You're back there for JFK. And I think the time that they spend like thinking about like especially the after effect of this assassination and the missing and what that thing is like, once you think if this would have changed, your life would have been better. Really, you just never know. So, yeah, I suggest the book, honestly, looking back on it, but we'll press on because we're on the final episode.
Book club will be another show coming to the channel.
I'm out. The day of assassination, they are racing through to get downtown. They can't get downtown because overall everybody's trying to get down because there wasn't a lot of excitement back then. They're going through the crowd. He loses Sadie. He turns around. He sees the guy he killed, whatever, the dad. I can't, the cow, the butcher guy, the meat processing guy. What's the person he murdered? I don't really remember.
Transformers
guy. He sees him. She like sees her ex-husband as they're going through, so the past is like fighting with them the entire way. They get into like a car accident, like he gets on a bus and the car comes crashing down. The past is there. You see the most like the what do they call that? Mark in Dallas,
it's where all Dealey Plaza or
where they're all standing on the grass and videotaping
the grassy knoll.
Grassy knoll. There it is. That's why I don't win trivia matches. Grassy knoll. So they're sitting there. He's like trying to get into the building where Oswald's there. The guy's standing there. She's like, "No, did Oswald come to work?" Yeah, blah blah. He pulls a gun on him. He's like, "You're not supposed to say no. Like this is supposed to be open. You're not like the past has even got him on it." She's like, "What the fuck's going on?" Like she's even losing. Like, man, I'm really trusting this guy to just be fucking accurate. She is. Oswald's up in the tower. Their timer's clocking down. They're walking up They're going up the stairs. It cuts off. They have to go to the other side of it to get to the 6th floor. He's in there. The motorcade is coming through. He's got his gun out. Goes, takes the shot. You hear Jake go, Harvey Oswald or whatever, and he misses the shot.
Home?
Yeah. Misses the shot. They all run. They take a shooter. The pass interferes by like shutting the red door, like basically locking them in there. Lee Harvey Oswald is shooting at them. Everybody's drawing attention to the place, so they're all coming to check out. He's trying to defend it, trying to help. He's firing bullets at her. Basically, in the time, he hits Sadie, killing Sadie. Jake shoots Oswald, kills Oswald dead. So that's where basically the book, after they wrestle and dead, ends up dying. Police comes in, take attention to her, care for her. He ends up going into custody. So the famous, he gets punched in the face. Goes, "Oh, shame you hit your head on that door." That door, basically just busts him in the head. He's walking out. The famous of Oswald walking out of the elevators is now him walking out of the elevators. He's getting interviewed by the Dallas police, interrogated, going through all the stuff. He's not cooperating. He's like, "I need to talk to him," and he like points to the FBI agent. And goes, "Why didn't you stop Oswald? You were supposed to stop this. Why didn't you?" So he ends up leaving. They end up talking, and he's like, "So you're a spy, right? You're just a spy. No, and which names do you want to go by? You went by many names before, like, and there's no record of you before 1960. So." And he's like, "I think you. What about that letter that Oswald gave you? Like, he gave you a wedding. Now you're going to burn that letter or get rid of it to save your ass because you could
How
have
did he
prevented."
know about that part?
That's a great question. I think because the letter was recovered.
Okay.
I think the letter was recovered in the thing because, like,
Mm.
he even like talks to the door guy at the front. He goes, "No, you testify that, like, in the trial." Like, I think that is recovered. But he's sitting there, he's like, "Why didn't you prevent it? Why didn't you stop it?" And then like lists this. He goes, "Well, lived in the same apartment, 3 brothers in the same building, all spies, 2 dead. You're the last one to take the trial for it." And he like starts listing stuff off about JFK, like Marilyn Monroe and all the stuff you're trying to cover up. Dude, you ain't making this easy at all. Like, basically ends up sitting there. Him and the Dallas cop like have a conversation about like jurisdiction and who it is. He ends up getting a phone call from Kennedy. Kennedy and Jackie are basically like, "Thank you for, keeping me alive, blah, blah, blah." FBI agent ends up like dropping him off at the bus station. Trying to think of what else happens. This episode pisses me off more than anything.
I think it just gets back and
yeah, he ends up going back in time. He goes back to the location that he needs to, and it transfers back, and everything is rubble, basically. Everything is rubble. There's a lady, and he goes, "What happened to Al's diner?" Like, "Al's what?" And she like walks away. He ends up like searching around, and he ends up finding his student that he talked to originally. The one that he saved is from his dad. And they end up having a conversation about like Wallace getting elected president, and then Kennedy served 2 terms, and it wasn't as good as it all wrapped up to be. Kind of a heartbreaking moment too. He's like, "He was my dad. Like, he killed his dad, but he's like, he was my dad." Like, even like the stuff that built. It's basically a long thing of like, you think changing the past can have a better outcome, but you don't know what the past is like important or what you're going to be able to do. He does say this online to him. He goes, "Is this your family?" And he's like, "I think you know." Like, he knew, he's seen the guy on the day. Like, he knows exactly who saved and killed his dad. But it's such an interesting cat because what you think is like what's going to happen because it's saving this, getting to this moment. You think like the life when they go back to the normal is going to be normal. King, of course, flips it on his head and says, "Fuck no, it's going to be awful." And he's like, "What about Kennedy? What the fuck you want to know anything about Kennedy? Like, Kennedy's not that important of a guy." It just goes through all the history timeline of everything that ended up happening. Vietnam War didn't happen, like everything. Asked about 9/11. None of it, but it still just didn't turn out the way everything planned to go.
There were some other sort of massive attacks on the country. It's all wasteland and stuff.
Yeah, it's all wasteland. He ends up going back. He walking through. People are trying to like, I don't want any trouble. Get through the rain. Blah blah. He hops back into 1960. He goes back into 1960. He runs to the soda shop place or the place where Sadie is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're here with your cousins. I know you. Blah blah. We've seen each other before. She's like, I don't really know you. While he's talking to her, the guy with the hat shows up at the thing. He goes, "You're in your own loop now, man. Like, still drowning, still everything. Nothing's gonna change. Everything's gonna be that you don't want. You don't want this. Like, don't do this." And then Sadie comes out and goes, "So how do I know you?" "You don't. I made a mistake. Like, made a mistake. Sorry, wrong person." "Well, you have a good time. I'm Sadie." He ends up showing back up, diner, just sitting there chilling, goes back to teaching like everything's fucking normal. Motherfucker was in 1960 for fucking forever. He ends up running into the janitor or the guy at the school and gives him a big old hug. Like, he just has a mental breakdown, basically. He starts looking up Sadie, finds out that they're going to honor her at this night. Go figure, right? We're about to close out. We got to fucking... So she's old as shit. She's a dinosaur. And they end up sitting there reading the quote off. And then they end up dancing, talking about, like, she's like, "I do know you from a different time, blah, blah, blah." And that's how the show ends. So, overall
shoot a
thoughts.
shot.
Overall thoughts. He banged the shit out of old Sadie.
Gave her a heart attack that night.
He gave her a ride. Anybody else?
I mean, contrary to what I would have thought, Jake is a success. He completed his mission. It's just the mission wasn't really a mission, I guess, that needed to be completed. I mean, fuck Kennedy, I guess. But,
yeah, fuck Kennedy. God, Kennedy's a fucking tool bag. Right?
I mean, that fucker had
the greatest
die,
thing he did was die, apparently.
The thing we've all been taught our entire life. No, Kennedy fucking deserved to go. Like, fuck. Wild times.
I mean, I guess that's the thing about the time machine, because like if it was like it took you back to like the day of or like maybe the week before, I would tell you keep going back and trying to redo stuff and change things a little bit. But the fact that you have to go back and sit there for like 3 years or something like that, it's like, nah.
Right, crazy.
But yeah, so I guess, I mean, it ended, I guess, how you would have ended it. Stephen King apparently is not going to say that it was anything other than Oswald acting alone, so you can't really explore any of that stuff.
Right.
And yeah, so I feel like this would have been a really great Quantum Leap episode. But
yeah, like, it's a great premise of a show. Like, idea, and it should like.
And like I said, I'm sure the book was able to flesh everything out and make it a whole lot better. But yeah, even just 8 episodes, it's funny because it feels like it's not enough time, but it's also too much time because that whole last episode was just bullshit.
Yeah, right.
I mean, part of me really, there's a moment that I found a lot of joy in this episode. Is when Jake came back and he found all the rubble, and he's kind of walking through it as if like, this looks a little bit different than when I last left it. Like he's kind of walking through it nonchalant. It's like, excuse me, can you tell me what happened? Like it's just like
what the fuck?
it's like he's like just not reacting to like, oh, like an atomic bomb went off in here.
Right.
I wonder if I had anything to do with this.
Yeah, it just I don't know. Yeah, like it's not good. Like I'm not gonna like there's no way around it. I mean, thought it was dumb when like, oh, he's making the Oswald perp walk and like, oh, is there going to be a thing where he gets tried for the attempted assassination for Kennedy's murder? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why would he kill two people in this room and also try to kill Kennedy? That's dumb. And while you're saying these all spies, like, what's going on here?
And none of them were police officers. None of them were like they were just normal people.
Yeah, like so. Okay, and like again. And also, you brought up like that hat guy, like who, like I kind of like how he's brought in the first two episodes. He's made to be like we think he's going to be important. Then he just is gone, and then we bring him back to like kind of give some context to this thing. I'm like, well, okay, like it's like we could have just not had this guy here, and Jake just could have figured out that on his own. Honestly,
that more questions. Like, is he using the same diner or time travel? What's he doing?
Like, in all honesty, that probably would have been a better final episode if he threw this way. Is if he just tried to both save Kennedy and save Sadie, and then realizing that he can't do both. Like it's I mean, maybe like he would have been an old man or whatever by the end of it, but like who cares? Like yeah, just.
Do like
again, like I feel like if you were to start with him having amnesia, it probably would because you also could have stuck in there at the end that he actually had already successfully stopped the Kennedy assassination before. He's actually trying to save Sadie this time around. He doesn't remember that his mission this time is saving Sadie, and then realizing I actually can't save her. Like it just. I don't know. And then plus at the end, like, so like he went back in time to try to stop the Kennedy assassination, couldn't do it. He's not going to get the girl. So what the fuck were we here for 8 episodes for? Like, what was the point?
I think it would almost been better too if like he succeeded in his mission, but she died. So it's like I can't be without her, so I have to go back and try to do it all again. To where I'll still save Kennedy, save the future, but I got to save her too. And then he tries to go do that a few times.
Like, that would have been kind of because, like, if he saved Kennedy, the world is actually better. But Sadie's dead, so he goes back to try to save Sadie, but he saves Sadie, and the world's all fucked. And like, okay, like then we got something here.
Like he chose her over the world.
I also think the book has more of him failing and having to restart.
See, that's what I talk about. Like, because like
he gets it one.
I would restart
like
3 or 4
shot. This is his one shot, and he does it once, and like perfect. Gets all the way to this point.
Yeah.
Pass is kind of a pussy. You realize like it almost took out Cooper 45 times. He's fine walking through fire, doing everything he fucking can. That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember saying at the beginning, like, oh, what if like he only had one shot going through this, and turned out I was wrong, and that was not interesting at all. Like him just having one shot at this was apparently a bad way.
Pretty shitty video game if you can beat it on your first fucking try.
That's why I said the first episode where he fucked up that gambling thing, I would have gone and restarted.
Yeah, like, fuck. And he has no repercussion. And you know what? He doesn't really face any problems besides moving. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do it again.
But yeah, I think it's a combination of the adaptation probably could have been better, and probably James Franco probably wasn't the actor for it.
True. I think it's the correct. I think a miniseries or like 2 seasons, honestly, would have been better, like on an HBO. But you see the thing, and you're like, yeah, that book is fantastic. Everybody loves it. Let's do that. Just don't have the right tools to do it. Okay, so are you two going to give Chernobyl or Band of Brothers anything less than a 5-star rating? I'm
I
curious.
think so.
You're both going to give it less than 5? You're going to
Well, I
give it
can't
less?
speak for Mark, but I think I would.
I will give both of them a 5-star.
Okay. So Matt, which one sucks?
I'd probably give them both 4.5 stars.
Okay. Not perfect. That's fair. I am on the path of 4.5, 2 for both. Band of Brothers and Chernobyl. I think it might be a nitpick. Maybe Band of Brothers could afford one less episode, maybe 2 less episodes. The medic one.
I think the thing with the medic is if they would have had the medic as like more of a character in the episodes before that one, so it wasn't like all of a sudden.
You just sold it. Good job. Right, Mark? Agree. Shake your head.
We didn't have a fucking problem with the Webster episode and him not being involved.
I mean, to be honest, I feel the Webster Webster appeared in a couple of the episodes. Lipton you saw him throughout the episodes in more of a prominent role, but like the medic, maybe he was like a background extra in one of the episodes, but then all of a sudden he's the star of the show.
Mark. Just admit we're right and move on. Thank you.
Whatever.
I did see. I liked when the episodes after that when he would show up. I thought that was cool that he still. That's what I said. If you would have planted that seed a little bit in the episodes beforehand.
Why are you acting like a teenage girl right now?
He's there. Whatever.
I mean, to be fair, Mark has definitely watched it more than us. So
stop it. He has said whatever too many times. You have hit your limit, sir.
We had this argument already before. Okay, I think you guys are out of your mind, and you are kind of have your point, and that's it. We're good.
See, I sided with you on all the wire arguments, so now it's my time to side with Cody.
You can admit we're right.
No, you're not. You're not. Just go.
The medic deserved his episode. Omar deserved to die.
You guys are disparaging that veteran and what he did for this country.
Mark just doesn't. Mark just wants to be. Mark is Spence of our group. Just contrary to be the contrary. Okay. So 4.5 stars, 4.5 stars. So we'll probably settle on a 4.5 star for both episodes.
That's fair.
And probably 4.5 stars.
Either you guys are going to do 11, less than 5 for 11/22/63.
Well, I was thinking it's all 4.5 stars. 11/22/63. I'm going to give my vote first on a rewatch. So I watched it originally, liked it originally. Knew I hated the ending. Really hated the ending. I'm really, honestly, I think it's a pretty bad adaptation, and I think it's a pretty bad, show. Just because, to get to Kennedy was supposed to be the thing, and it didn't matter at the end. And I understand that's the point of it, but there's supposed to be, oh my God, it really didn't matter because of XYZ. And, the explaining of that. So with that being said, I'm 2.5 stars. It's pretty low on it. The last 3 episodes were real slog. I had fun with it because I always like time travel stuff. I enjoy it. I live for time travel is just some of the coolest if done right. And when we're going back in time and we're getting the references and stuff, I'm enjoying it. But yeah, it's overall, I would not watch it again. I feel bad for recommending it personally. But yeah,
it was fun to talk about.
I mean, we paired it up against 2 fucking, we did the same thing to fucking Oz. It's fucking crazy. Hey man, this is literally Rocky. This is how the Apollo Creed versus Rocky fight should have went. He shouldn't have left. He should have been knocked out in the first round.
And to be fair, like we used to say, Oz was a legacy pick. Oz walked so the other shows could run. We can't say that about 11/22/63.
Well, and here's the hard part, right? I don't watch television.
Yeah.
So the one miniseries I watched a long time ago because I read the book was 11/22/63. So when he brought it up, I'm like, let's fucking watch that, man. The other one that
like, it's a shame you didn't watch The Stand, because I think that's probably one of the more well received. I feel like this is probably the complaint that most Stephen King miniseries gets, that like it's nowhere near as good as the book, and that it's hard to squeeze it into that format.
He's fucking wordy.
Except for The Shining, because I heard that was more faithful. But
it's more faithful, all right.
Yeah, he hates it. Okay, so I'm at 2.5 stars. I'm interested to see where you guys go.
Go ahead, Mark.
I cannot get past my initial feeling. Like, listen, I don't think I watch a lot of stuff, but at the same time, I don't think I'm a super creative person. But like, I feel like if I can think of a more interesting way to tell your story, that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not shake that in these last 2 episodes. Like, we chose a bad way to tell the story, and it really showed at the end. And I liked enough stuff in it to where like it's not the worst thing in the world. So I think I will concur with Cody and give it 2.5 stars.
Yeah, we just spent so much stuff off Oswald. If you will, sorry, we spent so much time off Oswald and the Kennedy stuff. Like, if you think about the overall plot, like, we spent so much time on fucking Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand he's the one doing it, but holy shit, could something like be close? It kind of almost had to always remind us that JFK is the target at the end of this. Shady and crazy husband, fucking pig, cow farmer, fucking like the bug. Like the bug was like here and gone, right? Like we didn't even get anything like, and everything centered around Oswald was so easy.
Mm-hmm.
He got to Oswald so fast on everything. He was able to bug his apartment with no issue. The past didn't want to push back on that at any point. Like, oh, what? Past sitting there talking to each other. Want to do spiders? Yeah, spiders work. Like, that's what your thing is? The roof should have collapsed. Like, what are we fucking talking about? It's so bad. Like, it's just a weird scenario that just didn't add up. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of debating between 2.5 and 3 stars. It's a really great premise. The idea is great. Some of the side performances I thought were really good. Chris Cooper is always going to be great in whatever he's in. I really thought the Transformers guy in the second episode, I thought he was great in that, which that whole subplot was crazy, but he was great in it. But it's just Franco is just. Jake's just making stupid decision after stupid decision, and then Bill, and that just missing Oswald. All the stuff with Oswald is horrible. It's just So
we needed to spend more time with Cooper to learn about the world, to know.
Honestly,
about the
I would have been more interested in it's like the same thing as Gangs of New York. I care more about the lead up to that with Bill the Butcher and Liam Neeson's character than I do with all the stuff that happens afterwards. I want to see that movie.
If we would have just dealt with Cooper and talking about the situation and what ends up happening and those end up things, that would have been something that's better.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're just forced to believe that he knows everything going into it. Yeah. And we get little spots, but not like an episode. Or we should have had more drawbacks, like him going to face something. Oh, by the way, here's things that you're going to face and blah, blah. Like, Cooper should have had a bigger role in this, and it just wasn't.
And like you said, he's been trying to do this for like 40 years or something like that. And then Jake gets it on his first try. And that's without even Cooper's notes for half of it, plus amnesia.
That also would have been a good fit, like in that amnesia episode, if like we just saw all of Chris Cooper's failures leading up to JFK.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the better show was Cooper's failures.
Mm-hmm.
How close he got and blah, blah, blah. Because how they describe it, he never got really far at all.
Because honestly, I would have loved to have seen Cooper finally, or at least be alive to see it happen and succeed. And then he realizes, oh, I wasted my whole life on this. It wasn't better. And then But yeah.
Bad deal. All right. So I'm Chernobyl, and I don't think there's much debate. Chernobyl and Gangs could just sit at the top of the miniseries ranking, unless we want to argue when something else we put up there breaks one of those. They can just sit 11/22 should sit there. That's it. We're done with season 1, fellas.
Awesome.
Season 1 in a wrap. We completed it. I think I did the same 23 episode. I think this is the 24th episode. But we made it. 24 episodes in. Breaking Bad, The Wire, Oz, 11/22/63, Chernobyl, and Band of Brothers all completed. Next time you will see these faces, we will be talking about 3 white men doing shit. One's Italian, I think. I don't know what. Fucking Mad Men is about, but should be fun.
And if you are going to watch along, we're going to watch the first 3 episodes of Sopranos, the first 3 episodes of The Shield, and the first 4 episodes of Mad Men.
What? I got the extra episode?
Yeah, take it, bitch. You got 1 this episode, so shut. You got 2, 2, and 1 the entire time. We had to just work. Matt never got a break. Matt had 4, 3, and 3 to close out. But yes, we're doing that. Working on an intro, working on an outro. That won't give away plot details because I don't know what the fuck happens in any of these shows. I've never even seen.
I mean, honestly, we can just like string together some stuff from their opening credit things.
I'll probably just do like a combination of their like strip the music and do their intros. But I also don't know. But I haven't even seen a trailer on The Shield, so I know absolutely zero. Besides, it's the thing.
You're gonna find it.
All right, so we will see you next time. Bye-bye.